The dig site on Earth looked like a graveyard of metal and stone. Commander Vextal stepped carefully through the ruins, his forelegs moving with practiced silence across the broken ground. The air tasted of old death and radiation, even through his breathing mask. His team had been working here for 6 months, and they still found new horrors every day. "Commander, you need to see this," called Dr. Kiravine from somewhere deeper in the ruins. Her voice carried that excited tone that made Vextal's spine ridges stand up. In his experience, exciting discoveries on dead worlds usually meant trouble. He made his way through the twisted, metal corridors of what had once been an underground facility. The walls showed signs of intense heat damage, but some sections remained intact. The humans had built things to last. He had to give them that. Even 300 years after their extinction, their structures still stood. Dr. Kiravine waited for him in a large chamber filled with strange machines. Most of them had been destroyed, their metal frames twisted and melted. But along one wall, a row of white pods sat undamaged. Each pod was about the size of a human body, with thick glass covers and control panels that still glowed with soft blue light. "Power source is still active," she said, running her scanner over the nearest pod. "Most of them are damaged beyond repair. But this one..." She moved to a pod at the end of the row. "This one still has life signs." Vextal approached the pod slowly. Through the frosted glass, he could see the outline of a figure inside. It was definitely human, male by the looks of it. The creature's skin was pale, almost white, and he appeared to be in some kind of deep sleep. "How is this possible?" Vextal asked. "The humans died out 3 centuries ago. Nothing could survive that long in cryogenic storage." "That's what I thought too," Kiravine said, checking her readings again. "But look at these numbers. His cellular activity is minimal but stable. His brain shows slow but steady activity. Whatever technology they used, it's far beyond what we know about preservation." Captain Jake Morrison, the human cultural specialist on their team, pushed through the group to get a closer look. Morrison was one of the few humans left in the galaxy, part of a small population that had escaped Earth before the Great Burning. Most people treated the remaining humans with pity. They were seen as a dying race, weak and short-lived compared to the dominant species. Morrison pressed his hand against the glass of the pod. "I never thought I'd see another one of my kind from the old world," he said quietly. "The records say everyone on Earth died in the fires." "Maybe not everyone," Vextal said. He studied the readings on Kiravine's scanner. The human's vital signs were strange. His heart beat too slowly. His brain activity was too low. But somehow he was still alive. "Can we move him to the ship?" "The pod has its own power supply," Kiravine said. "We could transport the whole unit." "But sir, are you sure this is wise? We don't know what killed the humans on Earth. What if he carries some kind of disease?" Vextal considered this. The Galactic Federation had strict rules about disturbing ancient sites, especially on worlds that had suffered catastrophic events. But this was different. This was a chance to learn about humanity's final days from someone who had lived through them. "We take him," Vextal decided. "But we keep him in isolation until we know more." It took them 2 days to carefully move the pod to their research ship, the Stellar Dawn. They placed it in the medical bay, surrounded by every scanner and monitor they had. The ship's doctor, a thin alien named Zephyr, ran test after test on the sleeping human. "His cellular structure is unusual," Zephyr reported to the senior staff. "There are signs of artificial enhancement. His bones are denser than normal." "Human bone? His muscle tissue shows signs of genetic modification, and there are microscopic machines in his bloodstream." "Machines?" Morrison asked, leaning forward in his chair. "Nanobots, I think you humans call them. They appear to be inactive, but they're definitely artificial. This man was altered, probably extensively." Dr. Lisa Chen, the ship's xenobiologist, studied the medical scans with interest. "The question is, altered for what purpose? Why was he left in that facility when the rest of his people died?" They spent 3 more days studying the pod and its occupant before deciding to attempt revival. The process was slow and careful. They had to gradually warm his body, restart his major organs, monitor every system as it came back online. The human's vital signs during revival were impossible to understand. His heart rate jumped to levels that should have killed him, then settled into a rhythm that was still far too fast for any known species. His brain activity spiked so high that their instruments couldn't measure it accurately. His cellular regeneration was happening at a rate that defied all known science. "This is not normal," Zephyr muttered, watching the readings climb. "No organic being should be able to survive what his body is doing right now." But the human did survive. On the third day, his eyes opened. They were blue, a pale blue that seemed to catch and hold light in an unnatural way. He didn't move at first, just stared at the ceiling of the medical bay. Then, slowly, he turned his head to look at the beings gathered around his bed. "How long was I out?" he asked. His voice was rough from disuse, but calm. To calm for someone who had just awakened after centuries of sleep, Morrison stepped forward. "You've been in cryogenic sleep for over 300 years. Earth, ... Earth is gone. The Great Burning destroyed everything." The human nodded as if he had expected this answer. "I figured as much. The plan was always long-term." Tried to sit up, and the metal restraints on the medical bed groaned under the pressure. "What's the current date?" "Standard galactic year." 2687, Vextel said, studying the human carefully. "What is your name?" "Alex Cain," the human said. Looked around the room, taking in the alien faces watching him. "Former soldier, Earth Defense Force, Project Prometheus." He paused, seeming to consider something. "Though I suppose none of that matters now." "Project Prometheus?" Chen asked. "I've never heard of that program." Alex's pale eyes focused on her. "You wouldn't have. It was classified above top secret. We were special forces, designed for a specific type of warfare." "What kind of warfare?" Morrison asked. Alex was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was harder, the kind that regular soldiers couldn't handle, the kind that most people couldn't even see coming. Dr. Kiravine stepped closer with her scanner. "Your physical readings are extraordinary. Your cellular structure, your bone density, your neural activity. What did they do to you?" "Made me better," Alex said simply. "Stronger, faster, more durable. They had to. The enemy we were fighting, conventional forces weren't enough." "What enemy?" Vextel asked. "The records show no evidence of any external threat to Earth before the Great Burning." Alex looked at him with those strange, pale eyes. "That's because they were very good at hiding. They'd been hiding for a long time before we found them. By then, it was almost too late." He sat up fully, the restraints snapping like thread. The aliens in the room stepped back, but Alex made no threatening moves. He just stretched his arms and looked around the medical bay. "Is there a place where I can get cleaned up?" he asked. "And maybe some food? I have a feeling I'm going to need my strength." As the medical team scrambled to accommodate their unusual patient, none of them noticed the way Alex's eyes tracked every detail of the room, cataloging weapons, exits, and potential threats with the instincts of a predator. And none of them saw the brief flicker of something else in those pale blue eyes. Something that suggested Alex Cain was far more dangerous than any of them could imagine. The testing room on the Stellar Dawn had been designed to evaluate the physical capabilities of various alien species. It contained equipment that could measure strength, speed, reflexes, and endurance for beings ranging from the delicate whisper folk to the massive stone giants of Kepler-7. Dr. Zephyr thought it would be more than adequate for testing one enhanced human. He was wrong. Alex Cain stood in the center of the room, wearing simple gray clothing that the ship's fabricators had made for him. He looked ordinary enough, just a human male of average height and build. But when he gripped the strength testing bar, the metal groaned and bent under his fingers. "Grip strength is off the charts," Zephyr reported to Commander Vextel, who watched from behind reinforced glass. "Ah! The machine is designed to measure up to 5,000 pounds of pressure." He broke it at 7,000 and wasn't even trying hard. Alex released the twisted metal and looked apologetically at the doctor. "Sorry about that. Still getting used to being awake again. Sometimes I forget how fragile things are." The speed test was next. Alex was supposed to run on a treadmill while sensors measured his movement. The machine could handle speeds up to 60 miles per hour, fast enough for any known bipedal species. Alex stepped onto the belt and began jogging slowly. Increased the speed. he said calmly. The treadmill sped up. Alex's pace remained steady and relaxed. 20 miles per hour, 30, 40. At 50 miles per hour, he was still jogging easily, his breathing unchanged. At 60 miles per hour, the maximum speed, he looked like he could run all day. Can you go faster if we turn off the safety limits? Zephyr asked. Probably, Alex said. But I don't think your machine would survive it. The reflexes test involved dodging energy pulses fired at random intervals from different directions. The pulses were harmless, designed only to trigger sensors when they hit their target. Most beings could avoid 2 or 3 pulses before being tagged. Elite soldiers might dodge 5 or 6. Alex avoided 47 pulses before Zephyr stopped the test. He moved like liquid, flowing from one position to another so smoothly that the targeting system couldn't lock onto him. When the energy bolts fired, he was already somewhere else. This is impossible, Zephyr muttered, checking his instruments. The computer is firing randomly. There's no pattern to predict. How is he doing this? Enhanced nervous system, Alex explained, not even breathing hard. My reaction time is about 10 times faster than normal human baseline. I can see the energy building in your weapons before they fire. Dr. Lisa Chen watched from the observation deck with growing amazement and concern. As the ship's human cultural specialist, she thought she understood her own species. Humans were supposed to be weak compared to most galactic races. They were short-lived, fragile, and not particularly strong or fast. They made up for it with cleverness and determination, but physically, they were among the lesser species. Cain changed everything she thought she knew about humanity after the physical tests. Chen sat down with Alex in the ship's small recreation area. She had prepared a list of questions about Earth's final days, hoping to learn something about the mysterious great burning that had destroyed humanity's homeworld. Tell me about Earth before the end, she said, activating her recording device. What was life like in the final years? Alex was quiet for a moment, staring out the viewport at the stars. Busy, he said finally. Everyone was working toward the same goal. Every scientist, every engineer, every soldier.
We knew what was
coming. What was coming? Chen asked. The historical records are unclear about what caused the Great Burning. The records would be unclear, Alex said. We made sure of that. Truth is, the Great Burning wasn't something that happened to us. It was something we did. Chen felt a chill run down her spine. You're saying humans destroyed their own world? Had to. It was the only way to hide what we were really doing. Alex turned to look at her, those pale blue eyes seeming to see right through her. Tell me, Dr. Chen, what do you know about the current state of the galaxy? The question caught her off guard. What do you mean, peace, war, politics? Who's in charge? What are the major threats? How long has it been since there was a significant conflict? Chen thought about it. The galaxy has been at peace for over 200 years. The Galactic Federation maintains order. There are minor disputes, but nothing serious. Most historians call this the golden age of galactic civilization. Expression grew dark. 200 years of peace, he repeated, right after Earth supposedly burned. How convenient. What's that supposed to mean? It means you're living in a cage, Dr. Chen. A very comfortable, very safe cage. The people who built it have been very patient. For Chen could ask what? He meant Captain Morrison entered the recreation area. The older human looked troubled, carrying a data pad with the results of Alex's medical scans. We need to talk, Morrison said to Alex. Privately, Chen started to leave, but Alex gestured for her to stay. She should hear this too. She's human, even if she doesn't understand what that really means yet. Morrison sat down across from them. The medical scans show things that shouldn't be possible. Your DNA has been altered extensively. There are sequences in your genetic code that don't match any known human patterns. Some of them don't match any known organic patterns. That's correct, Alex said calmly. The nanobots in your bloodstream are more advanced than anything in our current technology. Our computers can't even understand how they work. Also correct. Your brain shows neural pathways that shouldn't exist. Connections between regions that are normally separate. Enhanced memory storage capacity. Accelerated processing speed. Alex nodded. Project Prometheus was very thorough. Morrison leaned forward. What exactly was Project Prometheus? What did they do to you? It made me into a weapon, Alex said. Simply the most effective weapon they could design for fighting a very specific type of enemy. What enemy? Chen asked. There were no major wars on Earth before the Great Burning. No major wars that you know about, Alex corrected. The real war was hidden. It had to be. The enemy we were fighting. They don't fight the way you'd expect. They don't use ships or armies or conventional weapons. And how do they fight? Morrison asked. Alex was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. They replace people. Slowly, carefully, over decades or centuries. They take the place of key individuals, influential leaders, important scientists. They infiltrate governments, military, organizations, research institutions. Chen felt her blood turn cold. That's impossible. You would notice if people were being replaced, would you? Alex asked. If the replacement was perfect, if they had all the original person's memories, their mannerisms, their relationships, if the only difference was a slight change in long-term thinking, a subtle shift in priorities. Morrison stared at him. You're talking about some kind of invasion? I'm talking about the invasion, Alex said. It's the one that's been going on for centuries. The one that your golden age of peace was designed to hide. That's crazy, Chen said. There's no evidence of any such thing. Alex smiled, but there was no humor in it. Dr. Chen, what made you decide to become a human cultural specialist? The question seemed to come from nowhere. I've always been fascinated by human history, the rise and fall of civilizations, the way humans adapted to challenges. And who recommended you for this position? Chen thought about it. My advisor at the university, Professor Williams. How long have you known Professor Williams? He's been at the university for as long as I can remember. He's one of the most respected historians in the galaxy. Alex nodded slowly, and I'm sure he is. Very respected, very influential. He's very good at guiding young minds toward certain conclusions about history. Chen felt sick. You're suggesting that Professor Williams is... What? Some kind of alien imposter? I'm not suggesting anything, Alex said. I'm just pointing out how easy it would be. How simple it would be to guide the development of historical understanding to shape what people believe about the past. Morrison's hands were shaking. If what you're saying is true, then how do we know who's real and who isn't? You don't, Alex said. That's the point. That's why humanity had to disappear. That's why we had to let everyone think we were extinct. It was the only way to prepare for what's coming. What's coming? Chen whispered. Alex stood up and walked to the viewport. Outside, space looked peaceful and empty, but something in his posture suggested he was seeing things they couldn't. The harvest, he said quietly. They've been preparing the galaxy for centuries, shaping it into exactly what they want. A peaceful, unified civilization with centralized leadership and no major conflicts. A perfect farm. He turned back to face them. But they made one mistake. They thought they killed all the farmers. The stellar dawn was halfway through its jump to hyperspace when the alarms started screaming. Commander Vextall rushed to the bridge, his 4 legs carrying him faster than most beings could run. The ship's sensors were going crazy, showing readings that made no sense. Reporty barked at his navigation officer. Sir, we're detecting a massive object directly ahead, the officer said, his voice shaking. But it's not showing up on long-range sensors. It's like it's there and not there at the same time. Vexta looked at the main screen. Space ahead of them looked empty, just the normal swirling colors of hyperspace. But the proximity alarms were screaming that something huge was blocking their path. Drop us out of hyperspace, he ordered. The ship shuddered as it fell back into normal space. What they saw made everyone on the bridge freeze in terror. A vessel hung in space before them, but it wasn't like any ship they had ever seen. It was enormous, easily 10 times the size of their research vessel. Its hull seemed to shift and change, sometimes solid black metal, sometimes transparent like glass, sometimes not there at all. Parts of it flickered in and out of existence, as if the ship couldn't decide whether it wanted to be real. "What is that thing?" whispered the communications officer. Before anyone could answer, Cain stepped onto the bridge. He wasn't supposed to be there. The medical bay was 3 levels down, and he should have been resting. But somehow he had known to come here, his pale blue eyes fixed on the impossible ship ahead of them. His entire body went rigid, like a hunting animal spotting its prey. "They found us," he said quietly. "Who found us?" Vextal demanded. Alex didn't answer. He was already moving, heading for the ship's armory with long, purposeful strides. The nanobots in his bloodstream had activated. Commander Vextal could see the change happening in real time. Alex's skin took on a slight metallic sheen. His muscles seemed to grow denser, more defined. His eyes began to glow with that unnatural. "Light all hands to battle stations," Vextal called over the ship's communication system. "Known vessel, this is the research ship Stellar Dawn. Identify yourself." The response came not through their communications system, but directly into their minds. It was a voice that sounded almost right, almost familiar, but carried something wrong underneath it. Something that made their thoughts feel dirty just by hearing it. "I should not have awakened the sleeper," the voice said. "You should not have brought him back to the light? Now you must all be cleansed." The alien ship fired without warning. The weapon that hit them wasn't energy or projectiles. It was something else. Something that went right through their shields, as if they weren't there. The hull of the Stellar Dawn began to dissolve, metal turning to dust and floating away into space. "Shields are useless," the tactical officer reported. "Whatever they're hitting us with, our defenses can't stop it." Alex reached the armory and began pulling weapons from the storage racks. Plasma rifles that normally required 2 people to carry, he lifted with one hand. Heavy assault cannons that were meant to be mounted on tripods, he slung across his back like they weighed nothing. Dr. Lisa Chen caught up with him in the corridor. "Alex, what's happening?" "What are those things?" "The enemy I was created to fight," Alex said, checking the power cell on a plasma rifle. "They've been watching the galaxy for centuries, waiting for the right moment. They must have detected my revival. But our shields, our weapons, nothing works against them." "Your weapons won't work," Alex agreed. "But mine will." He handed her a small device that looked like a communicator. "When I give the signal, you need to get everyone to the escape pods. All of them. Don't wait, don't hesitate, just run." "What about you?" Alex's transformed eyes met hers. "I'm going to do what I was made for." The ship shuddered as another wave of the dissolving weapon hit them. Sections of the outer hull were simply gone now, atmosphere leaking out into space. Emergency bulkheads sealed automatically, but everyone knew it was only a matter of time. Alex made his way to the ship's main airlock. What he was planning seemed impossible, but then again, everything about him seemed impossible. He sealed himself into the airlock chamber and began to override the safety systems. On the bridge, Commander Vextal watched in horror as the human opened the outer door and stepped into the vacuum of space. No protective suit, no breathing apparatus, nothing but the clothes on his back and the weapons in his hands. "He's insane," the navigation officer whispered. "No one can survive in space without protection." But Alex wasn't dying. The nanobots in his system were adapting his body to the hostile environment. His skin sealed itself, creating an internal atmosphere. His blood chemistry changed to process oxygen more efficiently. His enhanced physiology did things that should have been impossible. He kicked off from the Stellar Dawn and flew through space toward the alien vessel, using small thrusters built into his boots. The enemy ship fired at him, but he moved like a dancer, twisting and spinning to avoid the dissolving beams. The alien weapons that had cut through the research ship's hull like paper couldn't touch him. When the dissolving beam hit him, his enhanced body simply adapted, his cells restructuring themselves to resist the effect. Alex reached the enemy ship and began cutting through its hull with a plasma torch. The metal of the alien vessel was strange, shifting between solid and liquid states. But his enhanced senses could track the changes and find the weak points. Inside the enemy ship, things got strange. The corridors didn't follow normal geometry. Walls curved in directions that shouldn't exist. Rooms connected to each other in ways that defied physics. But Alex's enhanced mind could process the impossible architecture, finding paths through the maze. The crew of the alien ship wasn't like anything in the galactic databases. They were humanoid in shape, but their proportions were wrong. Too tall, too thin, with joints that bent in directions that made no sense. Their faces were almost human, but the eyes were too large and completely black. When they spoke, their voices came from somewhere else, not their mouths. "The sleeper awakens," one of them said as Alex entered their command center. "But he awakens too late. The harvest has already begun."
Alex.
Raised his plasma rifle. "Maybe, but I'm going to make sure it's the last mistake you ever make." The battle inside the alien ship was brief but intense. The enemy beings moved in ways that normal physics shouldn't allow, phasing through walls, teleporting short distances, changing their shape to avoid his weapons. But Alex had been designed to fight this kind of enemy. His enhanced reflexes let him track their movements. His modified weapons could hurt them even when they weren't fully solid. When the last enemy fell, Alex found their navigation system. The star charts showed dozens of other ships like this one, scattered throughout the galaxy. And they were all moving toward populated worlds. He activated the device he had given to Dr. Chen, sending a signal back to the stellar dawn. The message was simple: get to the escape pods now. Then he began overloading the alien ship's power core. Back on the stellar dawn, the crew scrambled for the escape pods as their ship continued to dissolve around them. Commander Vextel was the last to leave the bridge. Watching as Alex's signal grew brighter and brighter on their sensors, the alien ship exploded in a flash of light that lit up space for thousands of miles. But as the escape pods drifted away from the wreckage, their occupants knew this was only the beginning. Somewhere in the debris field, Alex Cain floated unconscious but alive, his enhanced body healing from wounds that would have killed any normal being. And across the galaxy, dozens of other alien ships received the signal from their destroyed companion. The sleeper had awakened. The harvest could begin. Admiral Roy Patterson sat in his office on Prime Station, staring at the emergency report from the Stellar Dawn's escape pods. The footage they had transmitted was classified at the highest level within minutes of its arrival. What he had seen in those recordings made his blood run cold. A human, supposedly from ancient Earth, had survived in open space without protection. He had single-handedly destroyed an alien vessel that their best weapons couldn't even scratch. And according to the survivors, there were more ships like it scattered across the galaxy. Patterson had been in charge of galactic security for 20 years. In all that time, the biggest threats he had faced were pirate raids and trade disputes. The galaxy had been at peace for so long that most people had forgotten what real war looked like. Now it seemed that real war had been hiding in plain sight. "Sir," his aide called from the outer office. "You have an urgent communication from Sector 7. "Put it through," Patterson said. The hologram that appeared showed Captain Blake Harrison, commander of the patrol fleet in the Outer Rim. Harrison looked shaken, his normally calm demeanor cracked with fear. "Admiral, we've lost contact with 3 research stations in the past 6 hours, Harrison reported. The last transmission from Station Beta showed some kind of energy discharge." "Then nothing. Send a patrol to investigate," Patterson ordered. "Sir, I already did." The patrol ship found the stations completely empty. No signs of struggle, no damage, no bodies. Everyone just gone. Patterson felt his stomach drop. "How many people?" "Over 3,000, sir. Scientists, support staff, families. All missing." Before Patterson could respond, another communication came in, then another. Ports were flooding in from across the galaxy. Research stations going silent. Colony ships disappearing. Even some of the smaller member worlds of the Federation had stopped responding to communication attempts. "Get me a direct line to the Federation Council," Patterson told his aide. "Emergency session, now." The council chamber on Prime Station could hold representatives from over 200 different worlds. Today, only half the seats were filled. Some delegates hadn't arrived yet. Others couldn't be reached at all. Patterson stood before the assembled representatives and activated the main display screen. The star map of the galaxy appeared, dotted with red markers showing lost contact points. In the past 12 hours, he began, we have lost communication with 47 installations across the galaxy. Research stations, mining colonies, patrol outposts, even to small planetary governments. Over 50,000 beings are missing. The chamber erupted in worried voices. Representatives demanded explanations, wanted to know what was being done. Asked if this was some kind of terrorist attack, Patterson raised his hand for silence. There's more. We have recovered one survivor from an attack on a research vessel. His testimony suggests we are facing an enemy that has been infiltrating the galaxy for centuries. He activated the recording from the stellar dawn. The footage showed Alex Cain in his transformed state, moving through space, fighting the impossible alien ship. The chamber fell silent as they watched the battle. When the recording ended, Counselor Thane of the Rigel system spoke first. This is obviously fake. No organic being can survive in space without protection. The footage has been verified by 3 different analysis teams, Patterson replied. It's real. And according to the survivor, this human was part of something called Project Prometheus, designed specifically to fight this enemy. Impossible, declared Counselor Vex from the Alpha Centauri colonies. Humans were a primitive species. They destroyed themselves in their own foolishness. They couldn't have created anything like this. Dr. Lisa Chen stepped forward from the witness area. She had been brought to Prime Station along with the other survivors to give testimony. I thought the same thing, she said. But I've seen his capabilities firsthand. Whatever the humans did to themselves before Earth burned, they created something beyond our understanding. Even if this recording is real, said Counselor Marin of the Trade Federation, it shows only one individual. How can one person fight an entire invasion force? Because he's not the only one, Chen replied. Alex told us there were others, hidden across the galaxy in facilities like the one where we found him. Project Prometheus created an army of enhanced humans, and they've been sleeping for 300 years, waiting for this moment. The chamber erupted again. Some representatives demanded immediate action to find these hidden facilities. Others argued that awakening more of these enhanced humans might be more dangerous than the Atlantean threat itself, in the midst of the chaos. Counselor Vex's aide whispered something in his ear. The counselor's face went pale, his normally confident demeanor cracking. What is it? Patterson asked. My homeworld, Vex said quietly. Alpha Centauri Prime has gone silent. No response to any communication attempts. The chamber fell deadly quiet. Alpha Centauri Prime was one of the most heavily defended worlds in the galaxy, home to over 2 billion beings. It had planetary shields, orbital defense platforms, and a full fleet of warships in permanent patrol. That's impossible, someone whispered. Nothing could take Alpha Centauri Prime without a massive battle. We would have detected something. Patterson was already working his communication console, trying to reach the system. Static filled the speakers, then nothing. The most advanced civilization in that sector had simply vanished. Send the Third Fleet to investigate, he ordered his staff, or full battle readiness. But even as he gave the order, Patterson knew it was too late. Whatever was happening, it was happening too fast for their normal responses to work. Dr. Chen stepped forward again. Alex said something before the attack, said they'd been preparing the galaxy for centuries, shaping it into what they wanted. A peaceful, unified civilization with centralized leadership. What's your point? Patterson asked. Think about it. For 200 years, we've had perfect peace. No major wars, no significant conflicts. Every problem solved through negotiation and compromise. Every world working together for the common good. She paused, looking around the chamber. When in galactic history has that ever happened? When have hundreds of different species with completely different cultures and needs ever agreed on everything? The representatives looked at each other uneasily. Put that way, their golden age of peace did seem suspiciously perfect. You're suggesting that our leaders have been influenced somehow? Counselor Thane asked. I'm suggesting that we need to find more of those Project Prometheus facilities, Chen said. We need to wake up more enhanced humans. Because if Alex was right about the enemy's capabilities, normal military forces won't be enough. Was about to respond when every communication system in the chamber activated at once. The same message played from every speaker, every screen, every display in the room. The voice was almost human. It's almost familiar, but there was something fundamentally wrong with it. Something that made their thoughts feel dirty just by hearing. People of the galaxy, the voice said, your time of peace is ending. For centuries, we have watched you grow and prosper under our guidance.
Yes.
You have become exactly what we wanted you to become. United, peaceful, defenseless. The main display screen showed images from across the galaxy. Empty cities, abandoned space stations, fleets of ships hanging motionless in space, their crews simply gone. The harvest has begun, the voice continued. Those who serve our purpose will be preserved, those who resist will be cleansed. Do not fight, do not flee. Accept your fate with the dignity we have taught you to value. The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. Patterson looked around at the terrified faces of the galactic representatives. These were supposed to be the leaders of civilization, the wisest and most capable beings from hundreds of worlds. But faced with this impossible threat, they looked like frightened children. We need to find those human facilities, he said quietly. We need to wake up their soldiers, because it's becoming very clear that they were the only ones who saw this. Coming in the depths of space, floating among the wreckage of the alien ship, Alex Cain's eyes opened. His enhanced body had healed from wounds that should have been fatal. The nanobots in his system had kept him alive in the vacuum of space for hours. He looked around at the debris field, then activated a small beacon hidden in his clothing. The signal it sent was weak, but it would be enough. Across the galaxy. Other beacons would detect it and begin their own activation sequences. The sleepers were waking up. The real war was about to begin. The first project, Prometheus facility, was found on a dead world at the edge of known space. Admiral Patterson's search teams had been looking for 3 days when their sensors detected the hidden base buried under miles of rock and metal. The facility was enormous, much larger than the one where Alex Cain had been discovered. Captain Morrison led the exploration team into the underground complex. The halls were filled with thousands of cryogenic pods, row after row, stretching into the darkness. Most of the pods were active, their occupants sleeping peacefully after 3 centuries of waiting. How many are there? Morrison asked the scanning. Technician? I count over 10,000 pods in this facility alone, the technician replied. And sir, we're detecting similar facilities on 12 other worlds. The humans built an entire network of these places. Morrison approached the nearest pod and looked through the frosted glass. Inside was a woman, young and strong-looking, with the same pale skin as Alex Cain. Her vital signs showed the same impossible readings, the same enhanced physiology. Begin revival procedures, Morrison ordered. Start with the command staff pods. The revival process took hours. One by one, enhanced humans began to wake up. Each one asked the same question Alex had asked. How long were we out? And each one accepted the answer with the same calm readiness. The first to fully awaken was a woman named Commander Sarah Blake. She sat up in her pod and immediately began asking for status reports. Her pale blue eyes held the same dangerous intelligence as Alex's. What's the current tactical situation? She asked Morrison. Your friend Alex Cain encountered the enemy 3 days ago. Since then, we've lost contact with dozens of worlds. The aliens are calling it the harvest. Sarah nodded grimly. It's starting then. Where is Alex now? Don't know. His ship was destroyed, but we detected a weak signal from his location. We think he survived. He did, Sarah said with certainty. Alex is too stubborn to die that easily. He's probably already working on the next phase of the plan. What plan? Morrison asked. Sarah climbed out of her pod and began stretching her enhanced muscles. The plan we've been preparing for 300 years. The plan to save the galaxy from an enemy that most people can't even see. Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out. On the ice world of Titan 7, another facility was discovered with 5,000 sleeping soldiers. On the desert planet of Kepler 9, 3,000 more enhanced humans began their revival process. Each facility contained not just soldiers, but scientists, engineers, and specialists trained for specific aspects of the war against the invisible enemy. The aliens had noticed the awakening. Their ships began appearing near the Project Prometheus. Facilities trying to destroy them before more humans could be revived, but they were too late. The enhanced humans were already awake, and they fought with weapons and tactics the aliens had never encountered. Cain had survived the destruction of his ship by entering a healing coma, his enhanced body slowly repairing itself while floating in space. When a Federation rescue ship found him, he was already planning the counterattack. The enemy made a mistake, Alex told Admiral Patterson during their emergency meeting on Prime Station. They revealed themselves too early. Should have waited until they controlled more of the galaxy. What difference does it make? Patterson asked. They've already taken dozens of worlds. Billions of people are missing or dead. The difference is that we're awake now, Alex said. For 300 years, they thought they had one. They thought humanity was extinct. They got comfortable, careless. Dr. Lisa Chen, who had become the unofficial liaison between the humans and the Federation, studied the tactical displays showing alien ship movements. How do we fight an enemy that can phase in and out of reality? Our weapons can't even touch them. Alex smiled, and for the first time since his revival, there was genuine warmth in his expression. Dr. Chen, you're thinking like someone who fights normal enemies? These things aren't normal, but they're not invincible either. Commander Sarah Blake had arrived on Prime Station along with 50 other Project Prometheus veterans. She stood beside Alex, studying the same tactical displays. The key is understanding what they really are, Sarah explained. They're not from our dimension. They exist partially in normal space and partially in something else. That's why they can phase through matter, why they can replace people so perfectly. But Alex hurt them, Chen said. I saw him fighting them, because he was using the right weapons, Sarah said. Weapons designed specifically to affect beings that exist in multiple dimensions. Weapons that most of your technology can't even detect. Alex activated a holographic display showing the design of his plasma rifle. Every weapon we carry is built to disrupt dimensional barriers. When we hit them, we're not just causing physical damage. We're forcing them to choose which dimension they want to exist in. And if they choose wrong, Patterson asked. They die, Alex said simply. Or they get trapped in a dimension where they can't affect our reality. The real war began 3 days later. The alien ships that had been hiding throughout the galaxy suddenly revealed themselves, appearing near major population centers. But this time, they weren't facing helpless civilians or confused military forces. Project Prometheus soldiers were waiting for them. The battle for the Centauri system lasted 6 hours. The alien fleet arrived, expecting to find a defenseless world ready for harvesting. Instead, they found Commander Blake and 200 enhanced humans waiting in ships that had been hidden in the system's asteroid belt for centuries. The human ships were smaller than the alien vessels, but they were built for this specific type of warfare. Their weapons could track targets that phased between dimensions. Their hulls were reinforced with materials that could exist in multiple dimensional states simultaneously. The aliens fought desperately, using tactics they had perfected over millennia of conquest, but for the first time in their long history, they faced an enemy that understood them completely. Cain led the assault on the alien command ship, a massive vessel that existed more in the other dimension than in normal space. Senses could track its movements even when it was invisible to normal sensors. His weapons carved through its shifting hull like it was solid metal. Inside the command ship, he found the being that had been coordinating the harvest. It was ancient, far older than human civilization, and it radiated an intelligence that was both vast and completely alien. You cannot stop what has already begun, the creature said, its voice speaking directly into Alex's mind. We have taken too much. The galaxy is ours. Maybe, Alex said, raising his dimensional rifle. But you made one mistake. You left humanity alive. We eliminated humanity centuries ago. We're just the last echoes of a dead species. Alex smiled. We're evolution's answer to you. We're what the galaxy creates when it needs to survive something like you. The battle ended when Alex destroyed the command ship's dimensional anchor, the device that allowed it to exist in multiple realities simultaneously. The massive vessel collapsed into normal space and tore itself apart from the dimensional stress. Across the galaxy, other alien ships began retreating as their command structure fell apart. Some tried to escape to other dimensions, but the enhanced humans were ready for that too. Their weapons could follow the aliens wherever they tried to hide. The war lasted 3 months. When it was over, the harvest ships were destroyed or fled. 2 distant galaxies. The missing populations were found in dimensional prisons and freed. The galaxy was safe, but it was also forever changed. People finally understood what humanity really was. Not a weak, short-lived species that had destroyed itself through foolishness. They were the galaxy's immune system, created by evolution. Itself to fight threats that normal life couldn't even perceive. Alex Cain stood on the observation deck of Prime Station, looking out at the stars. Dr. Chen joined him there, still amazed by everything that had happened. "What will you do now?" she asked. "The war is over." "Its war's over," Alex corrected. "But there are other threats out there, other enemies that the galaxy hasn't met yet. We'll be ready for them." He turned to look at her with those pale blue eyes that had seen things beyond normal comprehension. "That's what we do, Dr. Chen. That's what humans have always done. We adapt. We survive. And when something tries to wipe out life in the galaxy, we make sure it regrets the attempt." In the depths of space, the enhanced humans returned to their hidden bases. Some would sleep again, waiting for the next threat. Others would remain awake, watching and preparing. But all of them carried the same understanding that had driven their species for millions of years. Extinction was never an option. Not for humanity, not for anyone under their protection.